Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varisthaya Ramakrishna Namah Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityoramamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, who came to establish religion universal, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen from the Gospel: how to handle misery in life. There's a way of looking at misery. First of all, misery is caused by our own hankering after things unreal, hankering after worldly things, hankering after name and fame, power, position, wealth, property. So there are so many reasons to cause misery in the world, in the life. But there is a way of looking at suffering and misery. Sometimes they come to burn our impurities. They come to purify the heart. As Holy Mother used to say, sufferings are blessings in disguise. But one will realize only when one is practicing spirituality in life. Only when you are spiritually oriented, then you will arrive at this truth. Swami Vivekananda, in his complete works, volume number 4, he has composed a poem, Angels Unawares. There Swamiji says in the poetry, then sorrow came and wealth and power went, and made him kinship find with all the human race. In groans and tears, and though his friends would laugh, and though his friends would laugh, his lips would speak in grateful accents, "Oh, blessed misery." This is the poem composed by Swami Vivekananda. The serene feeling of equanimity of a man of knowledge has been depicted so beautifully in the above lines by Swami Vivekananda in his poem, Angels Unawares. The idea may perhaps leave us stranded, wondering how misery can produce bliss. The great discomfort caused to our mind or body is termed misery or suffering. There are miseries and miseries. Sarvam dukkham. The world is full of miseries, says the Holy Mother. To the wise people, everything in the world is either full of misery or full of bliss. Because their mind is not agitated by adversities and they are desireless as regards pleasures. In fact, they transcend both. But for the ordinary aspirants, it's a mixture of both pleasure and pain that they have to negotiate in the course of their life. Though from our own experience, each of us know that one has to accept both pleasure and pain with equanimity, our inherent tendency to avoid pain, or in other words, our weakness to avoid encountering it, has conferred on misery so much importance. This is a great fact. Strength is life, weakness is death. Strength is felicity, life eternal, immortal. Weakness is constant strain and misery. Weakness is death. Observe Swami Vivekananda. Can any consideration of even serious injuries ever deter us from participating in our favorite games? Similarly, it's the sporting spirit that matters most for enabling us to face miseries squarely. There are two inevitable ends. What are they? Birth and death, circumscribing our life on earth. What can therefore be a greater misery for a life than death? Immortality is that which transcends the limits of life and goes beyond its transcendent beauty and glory. To an embodied being, suffering comes in different forms. The subhuman beings are not aware of them, though their sufferings are no less. However, we shall see that a part of the Adhyatmika suffering is not meant for them. The repetition of the word Shanti thrice to invoke peace after all Vedic prayers alludes to three types of sufferings: Adhyatmika, which arise out of physical and mental causes within oneself; Adibhautika, which are caused by created beings; Adidaivika, which befall due to the fury of elements, etc. Adhyatmika sufferings under this division are related to the life hereafter. The body and mind are their targets. The mind suffers from impurity, fear, base tastes, license, anger, greed, hatred, untruth, restlessness, malevolence, pride, vanity, etc. Sufferings of the body are caused by death, disease, old age, accidents, etc. Since we are a compound of body and mind, Many of the sufferings are correlated and are called psychosomatic. So any suffering caused to either of them permeates both. As our physical ailments affect our mind, so also the mental agonies harm our physique. They say mind always plays a vital role in the cure of diseases. Likewise, body plays an equally vital role in keeping the mind cheerful. The body-mind complex is a container, adhi, of the self, Atma. So the complex is called Adhyatma. And all the sufferings experienced by it are called Adhyatmaka Dukkha. Or as the Vedantins say, there is an apparently intractable knot or superimposition of these two. The body-mind of 5 sheets, material, mental, vital, knowledge and blissful, and the self. These 5 sheets together form our gross, subtle and causal bodies. The sufferings experienced by mind and body affect us so much because we feel identified with the mind and body. That's how the observation of Shankara, there continues a natural human behavior based on self-identification in the form I am this, as manifested through human behavior. The gross body suffers miseries due to myriads of diseases and troubles like bad odor, deformity, ungainly size, shape, color, etc. The subtle body suffers from desire, anger, greed, delusion, pride and jealousy. They harm the mindset of people no matter whether they are sensual or spiritual. The worldly persons suffer helplessly, surrendering to the baneful influence of desires, while the spiritual aspirants suffer fighting against them. The suffering of the causal body is rather obscure and therefore difficult to comprehend. It happens in the state of deep sleep. We forget ourselves and everything around us and get up as the same fool as we were before falling into deep sleep. So the causal body has this suffering to bear. There is no difference in this respect between a defenseless baby and a defense minister. Precisely, what are they which cause so much suffering to the core of our empirical existence? The Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhiniveshaha, panchakleshaha. It clearly identifies ignorance, is called avidya. Asmita means egoism. Raga means attachment. Dvesha means aversion. Abhinivesha means fear of death or clinging to life. Ignorance, that is avidya, is the cause of all the succeeding afflictions because it is a repository of all impressions and it produces contrary knowledge that I am the body, not the self, etc. Of course, the ignorance we are talking about here is different from the primeval ignorance of the Vedantins, as when Shankara says, who get all the seeds of evil burnt away, he defines Mula Vidya as the seed or origin of all afflictions or evils, which include among others avidya. Egoism, asmita, is also a cause of suffering because it produces the ideas like I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, etc. I am the doer, and such other forms of egoism are preceded by the delusion that I am the body. So the conclusion is that egoism has avidya for its root. So from asmita originates attachment to all objects of pleasure. From asmita originates raga. There are impressions of pleasures imprinted on the mind tape that we experienced in the past. We activate them, that is, remember them, which is called smriti, and then feel a thirst for all pleasurable things. Everybody desires for his or her own benefit. It is nothing but a kind of attachment. Because of such attachment, we feel aversion to hostile and unfavorable objects. Though no fool would like to invite misery, they only are wise who are not oversensitive to either happiness or misery. The clinging to life or the fear of death is called abhinivesha. Due to the presence of raga, we want to cling to life. And similarly, due to dvesha, we are intimidated by death. Fear is generated in our mind when an object which we feel is hostile to us and therefore can cause harm to us. Fear is natural for all beings, ranging from the creator Brahma to a lowly worm. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad records the first cry of Brahma as out of fear Brahma cried. Brahma means Chaturmukha Brahma, the creator. Swamiji in his exposition of the word abhinivesha has shown how our past experiences of various kinds of fear have been retained by us as fine and hidden impressions, which in the psychological language of the yogis are called samskaras. He summarized the discussion saying, the recurring experiences of previous fears in course of time produce this clinging to life. And men are so fond of life that they desire a future life also. Then, adibhautika. These sufferings are caused by two types of beings. Those whom we regard as our own priya and those to whom we are averse, dvesha. Sufferings inflicted by insects, snakes, snake bites, tigers, enemies, etc. are thrust upon us. We have to live with them, so there is no way to get rid of such contingencies. Similarly, there are miseries caused to us by our near and dear ones also, sometimes without the least intention on their part. People think that they will continue to live after death in their progeny and in the memories of their near and dear ones. That is how the table of heirship under succession acts are chalked out. There are classes of descents. The heirs are given shares of one's estates in that they are benefactors here and hereafter. But at the same time, they are causes of measureless misery in most cases. We can't deny that sometimes we are loved by our heirs because of our riches, and sometimes we are even killed by them for the same. This is a continuous natural human behavior. Naisargikaha ayam loka vyavaharaha. Hence, an unending source of natural human miseries. Now, Adidaivika, last but not the least, are our miseries caused due to natural phenomena called calamities like storm, fire, flood, earthquakes, etc. They are called acts of gods. Daiva, that is providence or destiny, is one of the common efficient causes of a work. Sadharana Naimittika Karana. It is always there, manifesting itself at times benevolently, at other times malevolently, and at still other times neutrally. We have hardly any power against Daiva, even to act defensively. So, way beyond miseries. The Taittiriya Upanishad has given a chart of successively higher and higher grades of bliss. The unit of the highest human bliss has been equated with the joy of a young man in the prime of life, good, learned, the best ruler, having all the senses intact, strong, and the king ruling over the earth. From the above list, we can easily infer the opposites that can be counted as human miseries. When we are aging, we lament over the past. When we don't get fame, we feel ashamed. When we are not learned, we suffer from inferiority complex. When we are handicapped, physically or mentally, we are helpless. When we are weak, we feel hopeless. And when we are ruled by others, we feel oppressed. These together may very well constitute a unit of human misery. A passive attitude to misery. Misery as such is impartial. It is on the right attitude of the person that blessedness of misery depends. Lord Jesus has said, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." And enduring misery voluntarily as a means for a higher life has been advocated by the scriptures. Explicating physical and mental sufferings to Arjuna, Lord Krishna says in the Gita, "Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukhadukkadaha agama payano nityaha tam titikshasva bharata." Contact of the senses with their objects generates cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They come and go, being impermanent. Bear with them patiently. Bear with them. The right attitude is that misery or suffering pertains to the body. Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel, "One is aware of pleasure and pain, birth and death, disease and grief, as long as one is identified with the body. All these belong to the body alone and not to the soul." The Naishkarmya Siddhi and the Adhyatma Ramayana present a wheel of death and birth, Bhavachakra, as understood by the Advaitins. The cause of happiness and misery is the body. The cause is the unseen result of good and bad actions. The cause of these is attachment and hatred. Their causes are likes and dislikes, and favorable and unfavorable thoughts. Their cause is the idea of difference. Its cause is ignorance about the identity of oneself with Brahman. Let us not increase our misery by our own foolish acts, but let us imbibe a right attitude to endure it. Man-made misery is a penalty we have to pay for our own attachments of varied kinds. Let us purify our attitude and turn cursed misery into blessed misery in our Lord's name. Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, most daringly prays to Lord Krishna, "Vipadas santu na shashvat." Let misfortune be with us eternally. Is it not a foolish act of a devotee to impetuously invite endless misery? Her family's lot of miseries was already phenomenal, yet she besieged for more. Of course, she was by all means the most competent person to do so. However, she sets an example of unprecedented heroism. But look at the attitude of hers. Misery wins perhaps the one and only kudos in its life. Misery is as old as Saturn. And how astoundingly, in recognition of its misery's success as it were, Swami Vivekananda confers blessedness on it by calling it blessed misery. Different from Kunti's approach are the cases of the monks or the renunciates, as because they renounce their shares in worldly enjoyments in favor of their friends and relations, they are left with only miseries to suffer. And the body and the mind are the only grounds where one's prarabdha is worked out tangibly. That too becomes very intense when they want to exhaust all karmas in the present life itself. Hence, suffering is inevitable in the life of the renunciates. Yet, since they establish contact with their spiritual being, which is the absolute source of bliss, they remain happy in the midst of all the load of sufferings. Our strength to endure miseries is inversely proportional to our elation and delights. Having this test at hand, we can weigh our condition and take steps to equip ourselves to put up a fight against it. When all afflictions along with all happiness cease, there is no birth and death for an aspirant. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda in his Complete Verse, volume number 4. What to speak of small fries like us? Even the incarnations of God themselves suffered thousands of miseries, notwithstanding their own redeeming power. No difference can be found between the avatars on this score. In this one aspect at least, their earthly lives have got wonderful tangible similarity. Sri Ramakrishna's own life is an illuminator. He was the dearest child of Mother Kali. But when he, at the importunities of his disciples, particularly of Narendranath, reluctantly prayed to Divine Mother for lessening his throat pain so that he could eat a little, the Divine Mother admonished him, saying, "Are you not eating through so many mouths? What more should we expect from a suffering God?" And Swamiji would muse, saying, "And this is Maya." An active attitude to misery. Sri Ramakrishna prescribes, as he always does, another simple but active solution to ward off miseries. He says, "Give an about turn to all the causes of miseries." The Kathopanishad calls it Avritta Chakshuhu, one whose gaze has been turned away from the sense objects. All the evil propensities that would compel us to run after evil causes should be given a reverse orientation in order to force them to pursue a higher life. How wonderful it is. Suffer we have to. Why then not suffer for a sane purpose, for a great cause? The choice is ours. Einstein once observed, "My formula is neutral. The choice of whether to use it as a blessing or a curse lies with mankind." Sometimes the enemies thrive due to our active support or passive attitude towards them. Lord Jesus has beautifully described this about turn in the following way. He said, "There are eunuchs," that is Napumsakas, "who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven." And he did not make it mandatory for all. So he continued, "He who is able to receive this, let him receive it." Shankaracharya says, karma has its source in desire, since it stimulates action. For no impulsion to activity is possible in the case of those whose desires have been fulfilled. And fulfillment of desires follows from the desire for the self. Atma kamatvecha apta kamata. Elsewhere, Shankara has equated Atman with Ishvara. Now, what Holy Mother Shri Sharda Devi has to tell us about this problem of misery. She, being the mother, must be very deeply concerned about the welfare of her children. So her opinion has a maximum importance. And she was too simple to devise any complicated solution. She said, "Nirvasana ho," in Bengali. Nirvasana ho. That is, be desireless. That is the solution given by Holy Mother. There is then no need to show an olive branch to misery or be strong in its saddle, but simply to become desireless. This forms the essence of the Four Noble Truths taught by Buddha. On being asked how the internal enemies such as lust, anger, etc. can be vanquished, Sri Ramakrishna says, "So long as these passions are directed towards the world and its objects, they are enemies. But when they are directed towards the deity, they become the best friends of man, for they take him to God. Sri Ramakrishna tells further, the desire for things worldly must be changed into longing for God. The anger which you feel towards your fellow creatures must be directed towards God for not manifesting himself to you. So you are angry. And so on with all the other passions. The passions need not and cannot be eradicated, but they can be educated and turned into a different channel. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna about how to handle the misery in life. All the spiritual masters have dealt with the subject in depth, and they have given most valuable instructions. Swami Brahmanji, in his book Eternal Companion, has said, man remains subject to happiness and misery as long as he is bound by karma. This is the lot of every man, no matter whether he is learned or ignorant, good or wicked. There is more misery than happiness in this world. Most people live in misery. God the Father is loving and kind. Who can explain why his children suffer? Believe me, the Lord is always with you. So Brahmanji confirms it. It's a nice book, Eternal Companion. Please read if you have not read. Believe me, the Lord is always with you. Practice even a little, and he will extend his hand to help you. He will protect you from all miseries and happiness. Swami Chidananda has said, man is like a silkworm. He builds for himself this world of Maya and suffers all kinds of misery, being imprisoned there. He does not in the least realize that all those whom he considers his own are not really his. Embodiment by itself is so painful. On top of this is attachment. What can man do? Bewildered by the wailing power of Maya, man is caught in the net, as it were, and suffers. It is impossible to fathom the schemes of the mother. She has a destructive sport too. Destructive sport. That's why the master used to say, who will understand thy sport? I do not care to understand thee. O mother, give me pure love at thy lotus feet. For what is misery? It is defined. What is misery? It is the absence of real knowledge. So, where there is knowledge, there is no misery but bliss. Desire begets misery. To be without desires is bliss. But if there are only fear and misery, they dwarf growth. They do not allow him to progress. Swami Premanji said, can there be any end of action? So also misery is unending. On the one hand, science is trying to remove misery, and on the other hand, it is bringing about a terrible revolution. So the most reasonable position is to take shelter under God. Try to see the Lord's Leela even in these miseries and sufferings. He is the supreme benefactor, but man is deluded by playing with earthly doles. He forgets everything by being satiated with lust and greed and thirsting for name and fame and honor. That's why the merciful God has brought famine, plague, and this great war, eventually for the good of many. If you feel that life in the world is a great bondage and the world is an abode of misery, there will come distaste for worldly pleasures and your love for God will increase. You will then be interested in taking the remedy, which is to think of your chosen ideal and to repeat his name. You love to repeat God's name more and more, and you feel tremendously peaceful and joyful in doing that. If it were easy to surrender one's heart and mind, or easy to accept such an offering by anybody and everybody, there would have been an end to the sufferings and miseries of the world. Misery is a great teacher, Swami Chidananda says further. Swami Premanand says, misery is a great teacher. Unless a man goes through misery and suffering himself, he cannot feel sympathy for others' sufferings. But we have lost this truthfulness, and that's why we have come to such a pass, groaning under the crushing weight of misery and degradation. Now all our efforts must be directed first to retrieve it, not by mere empty speech, but by sincere action, pledging all our heart and soul to it. Swami Turiyanji has said, if you feel miserable for want of him, know that he is very near to you. You will soon have his vision. You will soon attain infinite bliss. Nobody wants him. Men want to get rid of their misery to enjoy life. To conceive a motiveless love for him is very difficult. If you are miserable for not having realized God, the more this mood grows, the more you will earn his grace. We feel unhappy when we make ourselves small. We feel miserable when we think of ourselves as finite. Swami Adbhutanji has said, divine providence has given man the sense of free will and the principle of karma. It is left to man to do as he wishes. If he chooses to do actions which bring him less happiness and more misery, he alone is responsible, not God. The idea of mine produces misery, while the knowledge of the real I, the higher self, brings bliss. Another great devotee, disciple Swami Ramakrishna Math said, the lover of God sees that instead of bringing enjoyment, these desires are the source of all miseries. Why should you throw away your perfect nature and take an imperfect nature? Why do you give up your infinite life for this perishable life of a few years? You have degraded yourself. The omnipotent, omniscient, immortal, eternal being is imagining that he dies, that he is limited, ignorant, weak and helpless. You are pure, you are spotless. Do not give away to false imagination. This false imagining will make you what you are imagining yourself to be. You are like a man who hears the false news that his entire fortune has been lost, and he begins to lament and ask, what shall I do? How shall I live? Well, all the time his lands and money are there as before. So you are imagining that you are miserable and helpless, but you have not lost your infinite glory. You are absolutely perfect, all blissful, immortal. Why do you want to be the Son of God? In order to get rid of the miseries of the world, is it not? So, where is the difference between bhakti and jnana? The first personal pronoun is the root of all our miseries. First personal pronoun is I. Hence our primary duty should be to get rid of it somehow or other. When the I is gone, nothing remains but God or divinity. Let him exist alone in his glory. Deny ego. It is the cause of all our miseries. What we call misery is in fact his kindness Ramakrishna says. How? We forget God in our greed for transient pleasures. So he makes us remember him by these little miseries. His kindness is expressed through both favorable and unfavorable circumstances. That means it depends upon in what attitude you look up the things. Swami Chidananda says, if we view life from another angle, we will notice that it is unhappiness that teaches us more than happiness. It is misery that cleanses our hearts more than enjoyment. So like that, all the Mahatmas have very clearly found out the cause of all sufferings and miseries and how to handle them. The only way to get rid of these sufferings is turning towards God. Until and unless you turn sincerely towards God, you can't get rid of suffering. Life after life. Take any number of lives. At one point of time, you must turn back. You must turn towards God. That is, you must be spiritually oriented in your thinking and in your actions. Then only it is possible to experience the everlasting peace and bliss. And that is the only way to handle the misery. Once you are well established in spirituality, then misery cannot be there anymore. Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel, bound creatures, so much misery and agony, and yet will not wake up. All the bound creatures are in so much misery and agony, and yet they will not wake up. Too much misery and worry. Where? In lust and gold. Through attachment to lust and gold, worldly people suffer misery. So, let us try to understand the philosophy behind misery and try to become more and more spiritual. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel. Page 876. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the second floor of the house at Champakor. Dr. Sarkar, Narendra, Mahimacharan M. and other devotees were in the room. Referring to the homeopathic system of medicine, the master said to Dr. Sarkar, "This treatment of yours is very good." Doctor said, "According to homeopathy, the physician has to check up the symptoms of the disease with the medical book. It is like Western music. The singer follows the score." "Where is Girish Ghosh?" "Never mind. Don't trouble him. He didn't sleep last night. Master said, "Well, when I am in Samadhi, I feel intoxicated as if I were drunk with Siddhi. What have we to say about that?" Doctor said to M, "In that state, the nerve centers cease to function. Hence, limbs become numb. Again, the legs totter because all the energy rushes towards the brain. Life consists of the nervous system. There is a nerve center in the nape of the neck called the medulla oblongata. If that is injured, one may die." Mahimacharan began to describe the Kundalini. He said, "The Sushumna nerve runs through the spinal cord in a subtle form. None can see it. That's what Shiva says." Doctor said, Shiva examined man only in his maturity, but Europeans have examined man in all stages of his life, from the embryo to maturity. It's good to know comparative history. From the history of the Santals, one learns that Kali was a Santal woman. She was a valiant fighter. All laughed. Don't laugh, please. Let me tell you how greatly the study of comparative anatomy has benefited men. The difference between the actions of the pancreatic juice and bile was at first unknown, but later Claude Bernard examined the stomach, liver, and other parts of the rabbit and demonstrated that the action of bile is different from the action of the pancreatic juice. Therefore, it stands to reason that we should watch the lower animals as well. The study of man alone is not enough. Similarly, the study of comparative religion is highly beneficial. Why do his, meaning master's, words so go straight into our hearts? Why do his words go straight to our hearts? He has experienced the truths of different religions. He himself has practiced the disciplines of the Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Shakta and Vaishnava religions. The bees can make good honey only if they gather nectar from different flowers. Yam said to Dr. Sarkar, he pointed of your illness. Mahima said to the master, you are ill, but what can the doctor do about it? When I heard of your illness, I thought that you were only going to pamper the doctor's pride. Master said, pointing to the Dr. Sarkar, but he is a very good physician. He is a very learned too. Mahima said, yes sir, he is a ship and we are only small boats. Dr. Sarkar folded his hands in humility. Mahima said, but here in the master's presence all are equal. Sri Ramakrishna asked Narendra to sing. Narendra sang, I have made thee, O Lord, the pole star of my life. No more shall I lose my way on the world's trackless sea. Then he sang, ever insane with pride am I, and many the cravings of my heart. He sang again, this universe wondrous and infinite, O Lord, is thy handiwork, and the whole world is a treasure house, full of thy beauty and grace. Narendra continued, O Father of the universe, upon thy lofty throne thou dost enjoy the music of the worlds, as thy creations praise, they sweetly sing. Behold, I too, though born of earth, have come with feeble voice before the portal of thy house. I seek alone thy vision, Lord. I crave no other boon. Here I have come to sing my song for thee, from a far corner of the mighty throng, where sun and moon are hymning thee. I too would sing thy praise. This is thy lowly servant's prayer. He sang another song. O King of Kings, reveal thyself to me. I crave thy mercy. Cast on me thy glance. At thy dear feet I dedicate my life, seared in the fiery furnace of this world. My heart, alas, is deeply stained with sin. Ensnared in Maya, I am all but dead. Compassionate Lord, revive me, revive my fainting soul with the life-giving nectar of thy grace. Again he sang, be drunk, O mind, be drunk with the wine of heavenly bliss. Roll on the ground and weep, chanting Hari's sweet name. Master said, and sing that one, all that exists art thou. Doctor said, oh, Narendra sang, I have joined my heart to thee, all that exists art thou. Thee only have I found, for thou art all that exists. Let us stop here. Any questions about solving the or handling miseries in life? Yeah, I already said, because we are identifying with the body and mind, so we undergo suffering. So our identification should be towards ourself, Atman. then we will be get rid of all these miseries. And because we are identifying with the body-mind complex, we are continuously being pampered by never-ending multitude of desires. So, we come under that delusion, we come under this veil of Maya, we should say, Maya. Because we are in that state of avidya, not knowing the glory of our true self, which is the source of all happiness and bliss. We are trying to find the happiness in the non-self, in the things which are constantly changing. So that is creating problem. So mind is the cause of bondage as well as liberation. Means when mind is filled with desires, it causes bondage. So we must be very careful about handling the mind. Instead of filling the mind with all sorts of desires, if you fill up the mind with the good ideas and spirituality and the open-stick ideas, then the same mind becomes cause of freedom. So mind is the gateway in either way. Either it may cause you bondage or it may cause you liberation. Mind is the gateway. So we have to play a very important role. We have to be very intelligent and smart in handling with our mind. Once the mind gets spoiled, it's very difficult to bring it back to original status. So that is why all these disciplines come, in order to control the mind. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna says, turn all the faculties of the mind towards God. So that's the way of counteracting sufferings. Because we are the cause of our suffering. We do something, so we come in some kind of suffering. We are not satisfied, we suffer. We become jealous, so we suffer. So we come under the grip of raga dvesh, likes and dislikes, so we suffer. So that itself provides you the answer. The answer is get rid of raga dvesh. That's the way. So in order to do that, you have to discipline the mind. So disciplining the mind is most important, then everything becomes okay. They are broadly classified under this Adidevika, Adhyatmika, Adibhautika. Broadly classified in these categories. There is no end for suffering. Because in God's creation, everything goes to infinity. Suffering, infinite. Joy, infinite. That's why in Taittiriya Upanishad, the joy, the last chapter, Bhruguvalli, I just mentioned it. The joy is explained how much is multiplying when you develop spiritually. And the final end is indescribable. So he makes Samgan. Like that it goes. It's so joyful. You see, Sri Ramakrishna also went to the ecstatic state. He could not describe that highest state of bliss. Because when you go to the highest state of bliss, there is no object-subject relationship. They are all merged in one. Only Satchidananda Sagar. You realize the truth. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. That is experienced. So when that experience comes, is final fulfillment. Like that. Any more? No. Yeah. Yeah. Christians? No, infinite suffering means infinite varieties of suffering. Varieties of suffering are referred that way. Hell is there in all the scriptures, even in Hindu scriptures also. Hell is mentioned. Hell means suffering to purify your heart. Suffering comes because of some misdeed. So it has to be punished. Or it has to be burned out. You see, suffering is nothing but burning out your impurity. That's all. So how many lives we have passed through and how many things we have done, accordingly we reap the results. And the incarnations also suffer, but they suffer for the sake of humanity. We suffer because of selfishness. They suffer because of selflessness. Like that. They feel joy in suffering for others. To give one example, the mother suffers for the sake of child. How much you must see how the mother whole mind is focused on the baby. Particularly when the baby is newborn for 2-3 months, her mind doesn't think anything else but baby. So like that. Natural calamities, they come in order to show you world is like this. You have to don't hug the world thinking it is permanent. And it can't go every time according to what you want. So that means it goes in its own way. So you have to go in your own way, not to follow blindly. You have to become wise. You have to aspire for spiritual knowledge. You have to do spiritual practice. You have to achieve the goal. So if you do it, you will get it. It is like that. It cannot be done otherwise. Only through hard-earned spiritual practice you will be able to realize the infinite divine grace of God. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. The more and more you come towards God, the more and more you feel divine grace. So our attention should be towards more and more doing spiritual practices. How much time we spend on worldly things? How very little we spend on spiritual practice. Very little, I should say. I can even say insignificant. 24 hours time, hardly we may spend maybe less than 1 hour for spiritual practice. So you can imagine how difficult it is. And it becomes more and more difficult. If you make the mind more and more worldly, it becomes more and more difficult to get out of it. That's how you are caught. Over? Very good. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire. Worldly lust raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bought for very selves. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or revenue, the playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. Drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when the heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.